And we're live, streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Thank you for joining us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the issues and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. To see our over 150 past episodes, go on our website at www.jasontram.net. And also you can see our upcoming guests. We have a wide variety of wonderful guests from the opera community, classical community, and into the indie, pop, rock, rap, you name it. We cross the genre boundaries into many different areas because we can all learn from each other. So thank you so much for helping us grow. We just recently hit 1,389 subscribers. Our goal is 2,500, so please subscribe today. We have a wonderful guest, Miss Jennifer Rowley, who is a leading lyrico spinto soprano singing at the opera houses of the world. She's made incredible inroads and had great performances at the Metropolitan Opera and all the world stages. We're so delighted she can join us. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. How are things in sunny Florida?
They are wonderful. Sunny Florida is great as always. We're going to get into the rainy season now, so I'm going to be dreading my 4 o'clock rain shower. But, other than that, everything is good.
You're in the tropics down there. It's so beautiful. Every time I used to go on tours almost every year for the last 6 years. And just Fort Myers is just gorgeous sunshine, beauty, and sun rays. And can't beat it.
You really can't. It's really it's really been a joy to be here for sure. For sure.
Well, we have so much to talk about, and congratulations on the success of your career. And we're going to talk about your great pivoting that you've been doing this last year. We have so much. Did you know you always wanted to be an artist?
No, I didn't. I actually come from a very sporty family. My father was a record holder in collegiate wrestling.
Wow.
Played football. My brother was a big football player for really big high schools in Ohio and Michigan. And I was always involved in sports. Not a lot of people notice about me, but I was an all-state softball player.
Congratulations.
I
wow.
was kind of awesome.
Were you a pitcher? Were you a field player?
I was a third baseman. And
important defensive role.
I had the big arm,
You got the cannon.
I had the cannon, yeah. And it was a really fun childhood. I mean, we were constantly swimming or baseball or football or, you name it. We were always doing sports. And I danced a lot actually when I was younger. My mom took me to dance when I was like 5, 6. There's an amazing picture floating around the internet somewhere of me at like 5 years old pushing a little baby carriage with my Cabbage Patch Kid in it, because we did a little song called Pretty Baby, and like we had little babies. It was so cute. It's around there somewhere with my big curly hair. But so I danced for a really long time, and that was really, I would say ballet classes is where I was first introduced to music and classical music. I did a lot of choir, show choir, things like that coming up because I always could sing.
Moving and singing. Boy, that's going to be great.
Yeah. I did not think, though, that moving and singing was a career. Do you know what I mean? Nor did I think that sports was a career for me, but like...
You're the second opera personality from Ohio to say the same thing. I didn't think music could be a career. That was Carlene Graham, who's on a few weeks ago. She just took over at Manhattan School. And she was my opera director in college. And I'm like, I love to hear those stories.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
They never know where they're going to wind up. You just take that road and it leads to so many interesting places.
It does, but I also was that kid that spent 45 minutes in the shower singing so you could hear yourself, So, and like my parents would like knock on the door and be like, Jen, it's time to come out now. You're wasting all the hot water. So it was kind of always around, but I did not really get into singing and like in a really serious way until high school. And then it was more musical theater than it was opera. I knew nothing about opera. It just wasn't a thing for me. Like I said, we played a lot of sports, so we, knew a lot of pop music and, things that were popular that they would, that they would play while we're practicing and, things like that. So I didn't really get into opera until college. It wasn't really a thing for me.
I think it's so
Yeah.
interesting that Americans, their first taste of the stage is almost always going to be musical theater, and to get
Yeah.
that experience, to get that bitten by the stage bug, and then what was your
It's so
first?
accessible. It's
What
so
was your first
accessible.
musical theater role?
Oh, that's a great question. Godspell.
Ah,
Um, oh, oh my God, what was her name? One of the smaller roles in Godspell. She sang a duet, and now I can't remember. And she did "Oh Bless the Lord, My Soul" with the high note at the end. I can't remember. But anyway, that was my first role in high school as a sophomore. Yeah, as a sophomore. And then from there, I mean, I did a lot. And actually, I was a belter for a little while. So I
wow,
did like Ronette, like the doo-wop girl in the plant, Little Shop of Horrors. But I always danced. So, I did a lot of like dance roles that, a singer that could dance, basically.
amazing! Yeah, that makes you
And
a
yeah.
rarity in the opera world.
Well, I mean, I think it was a great thing that my mom kept me in dance as long as I stayed there. I actually danced with the Cleveland Ballet for quite some time. And then I just, I got too tall, too big, too just everything to be a ballerina. And it became really hard, I was on point, I would say, at like 10. And then at about 15, 16, I was really done. But I did still do like jazz and contemporary and tap and things like that, but
So healthy
only
and
for
such a
only
great for
for
your
fun.
movement, and
Yeah, yeah, for
oh,
sure.
wonderful.
And I'm glad she kept me in that because I can do a lot of things on stage and coordinate, the voice with the body much more easily than someone who maybe hasn't had that body movement training. I think it's really important, and it helped a lot in my development into my voice for sure.
So
Musical
amazing.
theater is
I've
is
had a few
amazing.
ballet choreographers and dancers on the show too, and I work with a couple ballet companies, and I'm always amazed. I mean, the dancers are so amazing to me. I mean, I work with the musicians and I watch these graceful creatures who get off the thing and they take their break and their feet are bleeding, and it just amazes
Yeah,
me. And they're so young. I mean,
they're so young.
compared to
So
the
young,
opera
but they're
career,
so dedicated. They're so,
have to
I
be.
mean, when I was a dancer, I was so dedicated. My mother took me to class. I'm not kidding. 6 days a week, we were at class. I mean, I mean, ballet was 2 or 3 days a week, but then all the other days were something else, tapped, jazz, contemporary, some modern, something like that. But I mean, I was in it all the time, and I would go to school, and then we would go to dance class, and then Saturday was like 3 dance classes in one day. It
Wow.
was nuts, but it was, it just was. There was something even, yeah, young about connecting your body or connecting my body with music that really appealed to me and like really got kind of inside of me. So I think that's where the opera singing came from. It was kind of always there, but it took a little while to find the right lane for me.
How did you make that discovery to find your opera voice?
Thankfully I had a lot of really good mentors along the way. I
Feel
went
free to give
to
us some shout outs.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I went to when I was in the middle of high school, so between my sophomore and junior year, um, my mother got remarried. My father got remarried too, but earlier. But my mother got remarried, and she and my stepfather wanted to move to a different city where they were a little closer to family and things like that. And so in the middle of high school, I had to move, and I had to go to a different school. And the school district that I lived in did not have what I needed. And she knew from a young age what I needed. And it definitely, like, I needed to be in choir. I needed to be in show choir, in the theater program, in those things. She could tell. And so she petitioned the city next door to us, to allow me to go to high school in the district next door,
Way to go, mom.
because yeah, yeah, and they had a great choir. They had amazing speech and debate program. They had a theater program. They did musicals. They did all this stuff. And my mom was like, "No, you have to go to this school." So she made that happen, which was amazing. And the choir director there, his name was Ted Williams, he heard right away what I had. And he said, you need to go. I mean, really, I sang for him one time and he was like, you need to go get voice lessons. And I was like, I don't need no stinking voice lessons. Like, who needs voice lessons, right? But he said, I'm going to call, and we lived really near Oberlin, Ohio.
Wonderful.
And he was like, I'm going to call Oberlin and I'm going to see if they have someone who could teach someone so young. And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. And my mother was, I mean, my parents were supportive to a point that if they, if I really wanted to do something, that they would help, financially with that sort of thing. And so they did take care of me having like a weekly voice lesson. And what was really funny was the teacher that I got placed with at Oberlin she was a graduate student at the time. She and I ended up at Indiana University together.
Amazing.
At the same time in the same voice studio. She was doing her doctoral studies when I came in to do my master's studies. It was crazy. But she had taught me when I was like this big.
That's the really world funny. Of opera, isn't it? They keep
looping
right? around.
But she did really lead me, and my choir director really did lead me in the path of like classical music and oratorio and opera and things like that. And so the roles that I was given in theater at that school were more legit roles. So I remember I did Irene in Hello Dolly, the secondary character, and I did Hoddle in Fiddler on the Roof. And those are much more legit things, those
on
songs.
The breath.
They're
right
they're more lyrical. Yeah. And I think that the choir director knew right away what I was supposed to be, and I just didn't know it yet, And so they gave me a lot of opportunity to do, I mean, I did like solos from Handel's Messiah and things like that on concerts, for the choir. And, I was given a lot of opportunity to sort of push me in the right direction. So when they said you should audition for college, for like conservatory, I was like, what? Because I didn't know that you could go sing Handel's Messiah and make money doing it, right? That wasn't part of I didn't grow up that way.
I heard a very similar story from Sam Raimi as well. He's like, I didn't know you could sing for money. And who knew?
Like, who knew you could do this? And so I did do several auditions for school, and I ended up at Baldwin Wallace, which is my alma mater in Ohio, where I have an artist residency now, which I absolutely love. It's so much fun.
That must be so great to come home again.
It's amazing. And I literally work with every single student in the voice department. Every single one.
What a great
I get to work with them twice a year. That's awesome. But anyway, when I got there, I had a teacher named Keith Brodigam who also could hear right away what I was. And I, of course, thought I was there for musical theater.
Wow.
And that quickly changed because he was like, that's not your voice. And I'm going to prove to you it's not your voice. And it took a little bit, but he did prove to me that it wasn't my voice. And then I had to learn what the heck opera was, so it was, thankfully I had good teachers along the way that sort of led me in the right direction, even if I didn't believe that was the right direction.
What was your first role in college?
Type A. So my first role in college was Anna Morant in Street Scene, which was actually quite a good crossover because it was English language and the viol, you get that kind of musical theater style in the operetta. But my second role was Queen of the Night. So we see how far I went.
That was a good couple semesters.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I did an interview with Angel Blue a couple of weeks ago, and she asked me what my first opera aria I learned was, and it actually was Queen of the Night. My teacher gave it to me, and he was like, "This is what you are. Go listen to it." He didn't mean for me to go learn it. He meant go listen to it. But I, of course, being type A, went and learned it and came back the next week and was like, "I want to sing this for you."
Here are my high Fs. Bam.
Here are my high Fs.
Nice.
So yeah.
So you're doing these shows. When did you start to realize, boy, this is what I want to devote my whole life to? This is where I want to go.
I had some really good leaders and some really good opportunities. And when I was at Baldwin Wallace, in between my junior and I want to say it was in between my junior and senior year. Yeah, in between my junior and senior year. I still had never seen a full-blown opera. Like, I mean, I had been in the no, between sophomore and junior. I had been in the street scene, but I had never seen a full like I'd never seen a professional opera. It just it wasn't readily available at that time. And there was a Ohio Arts Council was trying to create a exchange program with actually my teacher Keith Brodigan, and they were trying to create an exchange program between some art student in Ohio and the Teatro Colón in Argentina, because the Teatro Colón had an instituto and they had young artists and they had young singers too. But they had a year-long program there. And they were trying to exchange for 1 month, one student to go there and one student to go up to Ohio. And they went around every school in Ohio, Cincinnati, Oberlin, it's Cleveland Institute of Music, everywhere. And the one student they chose was me.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And I had never been out of the country before. Like, this was my first real thing.
Teatro Colón is such a legendary place too.
Legendary. And you're standing in there at 20 years old going, what is happening? Like, people do this for a living. It's amazing. But the second that I'll never forget this, the second night I was there, my host, she took me to see Traviata. And it was in a boxing arena. It was in a huge arena, so big that they had cameramen on the stage projecting the action up onto huge jumbotron screens. Because it was so big, you couldn't see what was happening on stage from the back, so they were projecting it. And she took me, and I sat there on the edge of my chair, completely like, what is this? This is awesome.
Mind blowing.
Mind blow, like complete. And then of course, by the end I was like a complete disaster, ugly crying in the arena. But I said to her when I walked out of that theater, I said, I have to do that. That's what I have to do. And the next day I walked right into the library and I took out Traviata at 20 years old, like a total idiot, but I did it anyway. And I wanted to learn it. I had to do it, So that's really when the fire got lit. And then it just continued to build and build. The more I saw, the more I listened to, the more I learned, it built from there into a pretty big love.
So where did you do your master's degree, and how'd that advance the ball forward?
I did my master's degree at Indiana University, and I have to say I didn't have a great experience there because it's a very big school, and sometimes singers fall through the cracks there, and they have a lot of singers. But I can say that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I was able to motivate at that school in the way that I need to motivate now in my own career. I really had a fire that I was going to do some stuff. And when I didn't get cast for anything, I started auditioning outside. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to do something at school, I'm going to take my school education and I'm going to do professional things. And that's what I did. And I auditioned for the Cleveland Opera, which at the time, was a small company in downtown Cleveland, and they cast me as first lady. And so wow. I was a first year graduate student at Indiana University, and I had auditioned for Cleveland Opera, and I had to get like a 1 month leave of absence from class to go and do a professional job. And that was awesome. And they also let me cover Queen, which was also awesome. And then the next year I did Brevard Music Festival with David Efron, and I did Servinetta in Ariadne. And I just kept getting, I kept trying to work towards outside things because they didn't give me anything at the school.
I've heard this
And
story from a lot of artists. It's crazy how sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And
it
great
doesn't.
for you for finding that solution that works for you, that you can make it
Yeah.
work.
And thankfully I had some advocates at the school. I mean, without Indiana, I would not have met Martina Arroyo. And without Martina Arroyo, you and I would not be sitting here talking to each other today. So I mean, I had to go through that experience because I needed to meet Martina. She was absolutely
What a
instrumental
legend.
in, yeah, a legend, and just the most caring advocate for young singers that there ever was or ever will be. And someone who really like propped me up and kind of carried me through the hard times that I had. And I honestly, you and I would not, we wouldn't be sitting here. You wouldn't know who I was if it was not for Martina. So I'm eternally grateful for that, and eternally grateful to IU for providing that part of my education. Um, but yeah, and I I learned some roles. Martina did a role preparation program there, and I did some roles with her there. And when it came to my graduate recital, I said, well, you're not going to put me on stage. I'm going to put myself on stage. And I got an orchestra. And I did my graduate recital with an orchestra, small orchestra, and I paid them all in pizza. They didn't, I couldn't pay them, but I paid them all in food, and they were amazing. And we did all works with orchestra for my graduate recital because they didn't put me in front of an orchestra. So who else was going to do it? So I did it.
Your drive and desire is, I tell everyone you have to work hard. You have all the
You
talent in the
do.
world. You've got to be a self-motivated person. Get in there, work hard, and make it
You
happen.
do.
That's a
You
great
do.
lesson for all the younger people listening to the show.
Absolutely. And it's something that it doesn't stop in school. It's continuous. Like, you are the one that has to be your own advocate. You're the CEO of your business. So you have to sell yourself every single day. And if you don't believe in what you have to give, how do you sell anything? And at that point, when I was leaving I was like, I haven't been in front of an orchestra for 2 years. I did, the Turbinetta in Brevard, and then I was getting ready to graduate, having not been in front of the big orchestra since that. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna get it myself.
What did you sing?
I know we did the Glier concerto for coloratura soprano.
Stunning.
I know we did a crazy Mozart concert aria. I cannot remember the name of it now. However, Etta Moser does it, and it has an A flat in it, and it's on YouTube somewhere. And I did it. It was awesome. I can't
Those
remember
are
what
such
else I did.
rarities, those concert arias of Mozart.
Oh yeah, they were so great, and she
I
was
got
the
into my
best.
doctorate.
Gosh.
I have a kind of a fun story. I got into my doctorate on only one conducting lesson, and I founded my own festival. And I got in based on the performance I did. I did the American premiere to concert aria for tenor, and I had like 7 B flats, and I had Charles Reed,
Love it.
who was a friend of mine from the Met, sing. And I just my first show was I booked my own orchestra. I raised all the money. I put it together. I memorized the concert. I did a symphony. I did a choral piece, and it's you have to be
Sometimes it's
self-motivated.
what you have to do. Sometimes it's what you have to do. And, I can't tell you how many like benefit recitals or small concerts I arranged for myself because I just needed that. I needed that output. I needed to make videos. I needed money to go here and there and do auditions and whatever. And, if you don't learn that somewhere, it's kind of hard to pick it up along the way when you get older. So you really do need it instilled in you at a young age. And thankfully, and that's the one positive thing I take from Indiana, was that it forced me, because of the competition there and because there are 500 voice majors, it forced me to say, okay, you're going to close the door. I'll go around and find a side window. I'm coming in though. So
There's no stopping Jennifer Rowley.
there's no stopping me. I'm coming in.
I love it. What advice do you have for young singers? I know you do a lot of mentoring of young singers. We'll talk about that a little later. What advice do you have for dealing with rejection? Because that's such a huge part of the singer's business, is dealing with rejection, like constantly.
Yeah, it is a massive part of the business. It's massive. I can't remember the singer I was talking to, but when I was younger, I spoke to a soprano in my voice studio, and she told me she did 1,000 auditions before she got a yes. And she
Oof.
ended up having to start very late in life and things like that. But you hear no so many times, you start to think it's you, and it's not. And the advice I give all my singers is that it is an aesthetic business. It is a business that everyone has their own kind of taste for everything, and no one is going to be the next Callas. I'm sorry, but no one is going to be. We had a Callas. She enriched our art form. She left us with the most amazing recordings, and we learned from her. But there is no Callas. She's gone. And if that's your taste, and someone comes in and sings like Beverly Sills, you can't fight a person's ear. And so if what's in a person's ear is Callas and you are more like Beverly Sills, you're not going to change that person's mind. And that's okay. And I really do, I believe that we all have something to offer. And when you go into an audition, when you go to sing a concert, when you go to do a performance, all you can offer is what you have, what you do best, what you have to give, who you are. You can't offer something you think they want. You don't know what they want. You have no idea what's inside of their head and what's in their ear and what recording they listen to that they prefer to whatever sound it is that you have. You have no idea. So all you can do is go in and present you. That's it. Your voice, your technique, your musical style, your interpretation, your looks, your personality, your smile, everything. It's just you. And so you might as well go in and perform every single chance you get. And it's a very hard thing to do, especially as a young singer. It's very hard to just say, okay, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to perform exactly who I am. I'm going to put out what I have to give. And either they're going to love it and say, yes, you're hired, or they're going to say, no, thank you. And if they say no, thank you, it is not a personal attack on you. It's just you weren't a part of the aesthetic sound or look or whatever it is that they had going into that room that day. And the sooner you can understand that, the happier your life will be.
That's a great lesson. It takes a long time to develop that thick skin too, and you never know.
It does.
Sometimes you sing an audition and maybe they have a tenor who's taller in mind, or who knows what the parameters may be, but maybe they'll cast you down the road.
That's absolutely right. And that has happened to me many times, where I went in for something and a year later they called for something completely different because aesthetically what I went in for wasn't what they heard me as. And that's okay. Like, that's an okay thing. I love, I don't know if you know this, Jason, the interview that Bryan Cranston did after
I love Bryan Cranston.
Oh God, he's amazing. He did an interview, a passing interview after he won his Emmys for Breaking Bad. And someone, I think the Actors Studio asked him in a just like a red carpet interview, asked him for advice for young singers. And he was talking about that his life didn't start until he learned that every opportunity to go in front of someone is an opportunity to perform. And he says,
Strong.
when I started so strong. And he says, when I started going into auditions and just performing, just giving what I had to give to the side that they gave me, that's when I got Breaking Bad. That's when I started to have immeasurable success. When I was trying to please everybody and prove something, I got nothing.
And he was typecast as the goofy dad
resonates.
and Malcolm in the Middle, sure.
Yeah, and it resonates so hugely in our business as well, in musical theater and in opera. You just have to go in and take it as an opportunity to perform, show what it is that you do, what you have to offer to a production and to a role, and then you leave. And that's all you have control over. So if it's a no, you did your job that day, and that day something else something else was around that they wanted and you didn't fit that, and that's okay, you know. It's a hard thing to learn, but I think once you do, the 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 impression you make in an audition room changes, and that's when people are drawn to you and want to hire you.
Thank you for
But I
sharing
thought
that.
I found it was awesome, that interview.
Such great wisdom from someone who's been on all these stages and been on both sides of the aisle. So tell us about your meteoric rise to the top.
I don't know if it was meteoric per se. I tend to call myself an overnight success that took a decade to happen. But again, I had really good people leading me along the way. And I think you're talking about Caramore. Yeah, okay.
I've read those reviews. I said, this person's someone to watch.
So Will Crutchfield is an amazing, I don't even know what, a genius, a mad scientist for the voice. I don't know what to call him, but he's an amazing person, and really the genius that just kind of oozes from him just when you have a simple 30-minute coaching is unbelievable. And I had gone in, so I was 30. I was an old young artist, but a young artist nonetheless. And actually, I had management already, but I didn't have anything that summer, the summer of 2010. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to just audition for this program, because I feel like, first of all, I paid, so great. But second of all, I was like, I feel like I could learn a lot about bel canto music from Will. And I was really into like Lucia and Puritani and those kinds of things at the time. And so I was like, I feel like he's the guy I need to connect with. And so I went in that summer, they were doing Norma and they were doing Maria di Rohan. And I went in to cover Norma. I had taken in Bellini, probably Puritani or something like that, and was like, I want to cover Norma. And I did the audition and I sang, and he said, I have this, I know you want to cover Norma, I understand that, but I have this other role, and she's really interesting, and it's a bigger voice. It's more of a Roberto Devereux, Donizetti Queen's type of role. It needs a little more meat through the middle voice, which you have, and I'd like to give you the cover of that. And I was like, okay. Like, didn't listen to it, didn't anything. He said Donizetti Queens, and I was like, I'm in. So I learned it, and it was exactly as he said. It is an amazing piece of music, first of all, but second of all, it is a meteor thing. And after having learned Roberto Devereux last year, they're like hand in hand. They're pretty beefy, and they're dramatic, and yes, it takes a lot of really good coloratura, but the legato line is different than Norma. It's very different. So I was a young artist cover, and I prepared myself as I would for the professional world. I was fully learned, fully memorized, fully ready to go on day one. And that apparently was very surprising to people.
Amazing.
And when I went into my first coaching with Will, I remember him saying, well, you could actually do this role, couldn't you? And I was like, that's the plan.
A portent of things to come.
If called up, if you're a cover and if called upon, you want to be prepared to do it, So we were coming up on the dress rehearsal morning, which was very early, and we were getting on the bus to go up to Caramore to do the dress rehearsal for Maria di Rohan, and I was going up to do a rehearsal for another concert, like a pre-Maria concert, where we would have introduced some songs and things like that, as they did and in Caramore at the time. And the stage manager pulls me aside and says, your colleague has canceled this morning's rehearsal. Are you prepared? And would you want to sing it? And I was like, heck yes, I want to sing it. Of course I want to sing it. And we had no rehearsal. Like, we had coachings and stuff, but we didn't have a cover. There was no such thing as a cover rehearsal. We didn't have that. So
Small
I
companies
had
don't have
learned,
those resources.
no,
Yep,
you
it's
don't.
not
And
there.
so I had sat in that corner and watched, and I learned all that blocking, and I did it at home. It wasn't staged, at Caramore. It was all semi-staged in front of the orchestra, but still, I knew when to cross, when to do, all the things. And so I did the dress rehearsal and sang with the orchestra, and I sang because I was like, when else am I going to get to sing Maria di Rohan with a period orchestra? I'm singing, right? So I sang, and I did all the blocking and everything because I felt like my colleagues would want that. And we get on the bus to go home, and Rochelle Jonk gets on the bus and says, Jennifer, can you please come off the bus and go to the office? And I was like, what did I do? Like, literally, my brain went to, what did I do? Who did I hurt? Like, what's happening? Who died? Like, what happened? So I walk back to the back of the theater, and all of the people from the festival are standing around in a semicircle. And Lucy Yates, who I adore just so much in the world, she's an amazing Italian coach, is crying. And I was like, oh my God, somebody died. They're going to tell me somebody died. I'm going to have to get on the bus, sobbing, crying. And Rochelle starts crying, and Will says, we would like you to sing the performance. Do you have a dress?
Wow.
And I was like, what now? Like, what? And he was like, you have one day. Can you sing the performance? And I was like, well, yeah, like, I'll sing it, but no, I don't have a dress. So that was an exciting day, 24 hours, going through the score with Will the next day. Literally, they took me to Saks and bought me a dress because I didn't have one. And really, I mean, they took great care of me. And then I went and I did it, and I woke up the next morning and my face was in every newspaper. And my phone, I had you remember the BlackBerry at the time?
I do.
My phone was like just
Lighting
blowing
up.
up, just insane. And I had slept. I slept probably, I remember sleeping really late that day. And I was like, what is happening? And my manager at the time called and said, so you're going to be a star now? And I was like, great. I did not make a professional debut, though, for 2 years after that happened.
Really?
Absolutely.
Isn't that
Because
amazing?
it takes time. And so people call it, an overnight success that creates a star, but it takes time for that star to get in front of people.
It's
And
great.
so,
It's great PR to say that, but we all know it's not true, because if you weren't the artist and had the preparation and all your years of dedication, it would be impossible to do that.
I always say to young singers, right place, right time, and prepared.
Exactly.
Because you can be right place, right time and sing like absolute garbage.
And swing
And
and
if
miss.
you do
Yep.
that, there's no Star is Born, But so after that, thankfully, I found a new voice teacher who I am still with today after 11 years, Michael Paul, who I adore.
You're the second
and
Michael
who
Paul
is-
person. We had
Oh
Brian
my
Jade on
God.
not too long ago.
Brian Jade. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We grew up
The
together. We went to the
technique
same
is-
church as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The technique is beyond anything I could imagine. To be able to understand your own technique scientifically and what the muscles are doing, and it's mind-blowing. And I still to this day have my lessons all the time because it's important. It's so important to keep growing. But anyway, I digress. I found him, and we opened up The Voice, and I started going to competitions, and I started winning competitions, and that money helped me get to auditions. And I would say a year after the Caramore debut, I had my Met audition, and I had 3 Met auditions before they would put me on for Musetta. And then they finally said, yes, okay, Musetta's happening. And then we had to get the pre-Musetta so that the Met wasn't the first time I did Musetta. So we did the Oslo Musetta, which was amazing and an unbelievable experience. But that was in 2012. And so my first real like international professional widely viewed gig was in 2012, 2 years after this happened. My Met debut was not until 2014. So it takes a long time. And I was covering at the Met. Lenore Rosenberg was the casting director at the time, and she brought me in very quickly after Maria de Rohan to cover. And so I was covering Desdemona, and I was covering Musetta. I covered her once. I covered Guillaume Tell. I covered a lot of amazing things because she was like, "We just need you I need you in the house. I need people to get to know you. I need them to know
Very
your
smart.
work ethic." Yeah,
It's great having
very,
you
very
right there.
But like I said, again, years of continual auditions, competitions, to get the international career going. And it took a long time, but it was so worth it in the end because the voice was also allowed to develop and grow and mature, and I wasn't thrown into the deep end so quickly that I didn't have the technique to support it. So it was a good path for me, for sure, for sure.
Take us backstage in your Met debut. You've put all this hard work and sacrifice and many years of training. Do you get nervous? What's your process?
Oh my God. So I don't know if you know this. When the Met does revivals, the rehearsal process is this long. Like, it's so short. And when I made my Met debut, I had 4 days of rehearsal. Thankfully, I had covered Musetta. So I had covered it the fall prior, and I did it in the spring. But I did not get an orchestra rehearsal, and I had never been on the stage. And they said places, and that was the first time I had sung with the orchestra or been on the stage, was the places call for my Met debut.
Wow.
And it was crazy. Like,
You walk on that gigantic stage, you
crazy.
sing Quando Men Vo.
You don't even walk. You're pulled by a horse.
Amazing.
Right? You're pulled in a carriage by a horse on the stage 3 feet away from the pit where you're afraid you're going to fall into. But it was so bananas because literally you're just looking to see, oh my God, there's a step there. There wasn't a step in the rehearsal room. Oh, there's a chair there. Oh, oh, I actually have to climb on a table that's taller than the table in the rehearsal room. It was like separate your brain and your voice from the rest of your body and like let this walk and not fall and let this sing. Like, it was nuts. And the second performance was even crazier because the horse was making his Met debut, and he had stage fright. He had stage fright, the horse got on stage about 2 feet, got the lights in his face, and bucked and freaked out and turned upstage to go away from the lights, and the carriage was like tipping, and I'm grabbing Phil Karinkos going, "Let's go!" And I jump out of the carriage, walk onto the stage, and I'm like, just walking because that horse was, I don't know what that horse was doing. But so we get told afterwards that the horse had a toothache. And nobody told us the horse had a toothache. And the trainer came on stage and took the horse and this and that. And my husband freaked out. He was in the audience. He stands up in the audience, like freaking out. But we took that trainer a bottle of whiskey the next day. Yes, we did. Because it was, it was really scary. But like, you never rehearse with the horse. You don't even know.
My kids are millennial. They would say first world problems. We'll say a house problems.
A house problems for sure. But like, it's so surreal just standing on there for your Met debut anyways.
Amazing.
But
so what was it
I
like
had
taking the bows after these first shows? You put all this work in, you finally get there. What did it feel like? Do you remember? A lot of people say they don't remember it. It goes so fast and you're
no,
just
I
doing your
remember
job.
it.
You remember it.
I remember it. And Jason, I don't know if you know about this or not. I remember it very, very well because it was a comeback for me. And that morning, there was a very big article in the Wall Street Journal about me. And when I walked on that stage, it was for me a validation that my career did not end because of something horrible that happened in my career. And I cried. I cried like a baby. There are pictures of me sobbing on the Met stage. And I'm getting emotional now, but
Me
when you
too.
stand out there and you look at it was full. And you look at all of those people and they're cheering for you and they're screaming and they're so happy to welcome you after what I had been through. I mean, as a 33-year-old singer, I thought my career was over. And then to walk out on the Met stage and feel that sense of, oh, it's not, it's only just beginning,
Thank you so
was
much for sharing this.
unbelievable.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I mean, this is such an
Unbelievable.
inspirational story, and everyone can take from this and learn that you decide where you're going to go ultimately.
You do. And I have I'm so sorry. I have
No, absolutely.
I have a seminar I give to college students called the 10 B's for young singers. And it's a great seminar I put together about the 10 things that young singers need to be in order to be successful in the business. And I go into it what happened to me at Covent Garden. And I talk about being a young singer who was, completely abused in rehearsal and very publicly fired so that the house didn't, so that people didn't look bad and the house didn't have to blame who was actually at fault and all of these things. And it came out on me, a very young singer, And I say in this seminar that the heartbreaks don't define you, and that it's how you react to those heartbreaks that defines who you are as a person and a human and an artist for that matter. And yes, I definitely had my 3 weeks where I was in my bed and not talking to anyone and like trying to hide. But then I got out of bed and I went to rehearsal, and 2 years later, there I was on the Met stage with a full page article in the Wall Street Journal with a huge picture and articles in different magazines. Bleep magazine did a huge spread on me and about my triumphant Met debut, which was a comeback from really the lowest point that anyone could have in their career. And so it really is the heartbreaks and the rejection. They don't define you. It's what you do the next day. It's what you do with the next job. It's what you do with the next opportunity and how you bounce back and react to all of those things that define you. Not the heartbreak, not what happened to me. That doesn't make me me. The return and getting back on that stage and getting back on the horse and carriage, as the case may be here, but getting back out and doing it and being prepared and doing as good of a job as I possibly could do. That in that moment, standing on that stage, was definitely a feeling I will never, ever, ever forget. And actually, I'm looking at, I have in front of me this huge, the poster from outside. In the Met in the big windows, and it's here in front of me, and I'm just remembering it as I'm looking at the poster, and
I tell my
it's
students
surreal.
that music is like an amber that captures everything that's going on around it. And whether it's a Mozart opera, like what was going on in society, or whether it's the performance like yours that captures so much, every time you look at that poster, it brings back those memories and that great experience. And it's launched you forward now. What confidence did that give you, knowing that you can come back and you've got the goods, and you've done your work, you've taken on all of the most exciting roles in the lyrico spinto repertoire. How's that confidence instilled you?
It's huge. It's huge, and it really does prove to you you're at the biggest house in the world, and they like you, and they're cheering for you, and literally every time I step in front of that gold curtain and they're cheering for me, I lose it, because it's not, it's this little girl from Ohio who used to play softball, and it's an emotional thing, and it really does fill you with the most hope for your future. And then to stand on stages around the world in front of their curtains and have people have enjoyed what you did, and given them some sense of fulfillment in their lives, and fulfillment in music and art, and it's just the most wonderful feeling, and it just makes you want to do it more and more and more, and give as much as you can to it. It's really, it motivates you so much. It really does.
Starting in Musetta, at least at the Met, and then moving forward to, what are some of your most kind of, Tosca's your most often performed role and your highest acclaimed role at the moment. But what are the roles have you been doing that you're just in love with and you can't wait to? And what are some roles that are on the docket?
Yeah, it's interesting because Musetta really was my transition role, and I'm so glad that I had her, because like we talked about 7 years earlier, I was singing Turbinetta in college, right? And now I sing Tosca. So I'm literally the only person who highlights Ariadne and Turbinetta in their score. Right? So Musetta was an amazing transition role, and Donna Anna was the same for me. I did Donna Anna at Michigan Opera. I did it in Finland at the Savonlinna Festival, and that was a great transition role for me as well, because she's one of the roles that the bigger voices can sing young, because we go, oh, okay, that voice is going to sing Verdi. It's a real indicator. So for me, when I transitioned into the Verdi, into Trovatore, that was a perfect fit, because it was Anna, just bigger, so I do love doing Verdi so much. I love Forza. I love Ballo, Aida. They're things I never thought I would sing, and I'm just so in love with.
Do I hear a Turandot on deck somewhere down the road?
No, not yet. I think that Turandot will come, but a while down the road. It's funny. There's still so many. I love bel canto, and there's still so many bel canto roles that I've not gotten to do. I was cast, and unfortunately it got cast because of COVID. I was supposed to do the new production of Roberto Devereux in Australia at Sydney, and I loved that role. Oh, I loved her so much, and my coach Anthony Manoli and I worked really hard on her, and I was so ready for that job, and then COVID, and then and no more Roberto Devereux, and so I hope that will come back, because I love that role, and I've never gotten to do Norma, and so I took time in the pandemic to learn Norma, and now I know it, in case anyone says, hey, want to come sing it, but I love Norma, and I think that as a spinto you can sing Norma with no problem, and learn how to thread that needle with technique, and then be able to really sing in those big moments, but also keep the voice healthy. It's like Bach for smaller voices, Bellini, because it's hard, and you really do have to technically thread that needle through the whole show.
Must be comfortable, and the power has to be there. It's perfect.
Yes, absolutely. So those kinds of things I really hope will come still. I do see that Lady Macbeth will come.
Oh, I love the.
I can tell, I can feel it. it's gonna come. Not yet, but it's gonna come. I think Sandra Rovanovsky has really done it right, and she's at the. I mean, her singing is just, oh, it's just unbelievable, and she's at the peak now, and she's 50. So, only now is she starting to get Lady Macbeth and Peak Dame and things like that. But she can still sing that bel. I don't know if you saw this video from the Liceu of her singing the end of Roberto Devereux. Oh my God. Oh, it's so good. It's on Instagram. It's on their Instagram account. Oh my God, it's amazing. But she sings it with such a big, juicy sound, but threads those needles, and those pianissimi are just unbelievable. It's because she didn't go too big too soon. It's because she kept the voice healthy. She kept developing it. Everything develops in its own time. And now that she is at the peak of her singing, now Lady Macbeth is something she can do. And I would like to follow that same path. And I do think that the bigger things will come. But as long as I can sing coloratura still, I think I should. Do you know what I mean? And I think
keep the voice healthy and limber.
Exactly. So I do love my Tosca, and she is my staple. And what's great is that if I have her in a season, I feel like that's a calm job. I don't have to worry too much, or stress. And I can learn other things, while that's going on. But yeah, I hope a Desdemona will come, honestly, because I covered it multiple times at the Met, but I never got to sing it. And so I hope that will come. Yeah, and eventually I think German repertoire will come too. I think Lohengrin will come. I think Sieglinde will come. But again, I think 10 years down the road still. I want to be able to do I would love to do it Ernani. I never did Ernani. I would love to, But I think that bel canto stuff can keep you fresh and healthy as long as possible before the chords get heavy and kind of thick. For that other stuff. So
I always tell the singers that come on the show, once you put it out there on Music Matters, it goes out into the world, and hopefully it'll come to be very soon.
I hope it does. I hope it comes back. I do. But in the future, I have I'm doing Aida in Serbia coming up in the fall. I'm doing a Trovatore. I'm doing a Aida. We said, and I'm doing another Bocca Negra, which I loved doing in Zurich. That was a great time. Yeah, and there's a Tosca in the works, and so there's things kind of hanging around, but I look forward to the bel canto coming back into my life, and I hope that Roberto Devereux in Sydney gets rescheduled, because
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you too. That would be so exciting.
Please, thank you. Thank you.
We have our first question from the audience. This is from Pablo from Puerto Rico, and he asks, which roles do you identify with personally?
Oh wow, that's an interesting question. So hi Pablo, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. I have to, and this is gonna sound really strange, but I really do identify with Tosca, and I'll tell you why. The play, the Sardou play La Tosca, describes her to be an orphan who was found kind of wandering in the fields amongst the sheep in a rural area. She was found and brought into a monastery where she was guided and taught to sing and taught to read music. And then she had mentors that put her in front of different agents and conductors and things like that. And she became this kind of young diva. And I feel a very personal connection to her because I'm the girl from the cornfield in Ohio. No, I wasn't an orphan wandering amongst the sheep, but definitely Ohio has its share of sheep and cornfields, right? But I do feel like I was, definitely this girl who played a lot of sports. I was a tomboy, and, I was found by some really fantastic people who led me down an amazing path. And then, I became this diva. But what I love about Tosca, and what I relate to her most about, is her humanity. And she is jealous, but she's so honestly jealous. She loves him so much that the idea of losing Mario to another woman is just heartbreaking to her. So the jealousy comes from such an honest place. And it's funny. I mean, she's funny. Like, she's so young. She's so young and she's so silly. And like, if I think back to myself in high school, like, oh God, I was so jealous. My poor high school boyfriend. I was so jealous all the time. God, David, I'm sorry. But I was so jealous all the time. And I relate to that though. I relate to that youthfulness in her and that, my first boyfriend, I don't want anyone to take this great feeling from me or this person from me or, and she's made to adapt to a situation that is terrible and she takes it into her own hands. And just the whole
And
process
like
of
you,
that
she takes
character
control of her
growing.
destiny. She takes
Yeah,
control of her
yeah,
destiny.
she does. And she grows in the course of a day. She grows from a kid to a woman and has to go through something that she really has to adapt who she is and problem solve and, come up with a way to get through this. And I relate to that. I relate to that, very, very closely. And so I do. I know it sounds weird because she's so diva, but I do relate to her, but I relate to her humanity. I really do. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and that's the reason why it's such a role that's become like a signature for you.
Yeah, yeah. I felt the same way about Musetta. I relate to Musetta
She's so
as
much
well.
fun.
She's so much fun, but if you read the Bohemians of the Latin Quarter, you learn that she is so deeply in love with Marcello. And the courtesan is just her job. And she likes things. She likes, corsets and purses and bags and shoes and, she likes things, but she loves Marcello. And I relate to that part of her, that deep passion that she would come in and disrupt an entire restaurant just to get the man that she loves hot and bothered. And
I love when he doesn't pay
her.
attention to her. It makes her turn up the volume even more.
Oh my God, it makes her worse. It makes it so worse. But I
amazing.
love that about her. I love that about her. And the book, she's so fascinating in the book, So I love the characters they're so rich.
That's
So
what makes
rich.
opera so special is putting the humanity. We each generation puts their stamp on these great works of art. What's it like being that person in this generation who puts your stamp on these great and takes that to the stages of the world?
It's unbelievably humbling. I mean, I just hope that people like what I do. Like I said earlier, I can only be me. I can
We
only
just got
show
a
you.
comment from the chat says you are the best soprano on the opera stage today. Bravo!
Oh,
So
that's very sweet.
you're getting a
Thank
lot
you.
of love on the chat feature.
Thank you. No, as I said before, I can only put out who I am. And I connect in very deep ways to these characters. And I try to connect, even if I don't like the character, I try to find something very deep and personal that I can connect to in order to make her someone that you love. Because when you love a character, you root for that character. And then when that character doesn't win, it is so tragic. And I can only put that out, I only have my voice to give. I can do all the coaching and lessons and diction and all these things. I can do all that stuff and I can work really, really hard. But the color of my voice, that's what you're gonna get, right? That's what I am, that's who I am. And I hope that 80% of the audience loves it. I really do. And I mean, I hope for 100%, but you're never going to get 100% of people to love everything that you do. But it's an honor just to be one of the people who gets to stand in front of the curtain and take a bow, because there are so many people who don't get to do it and who wanted to do it, or who are still wanting to do it, and just some one thing or another isn't working out or didn't work out, or the stars didn't align, or the right place at the right time prepared didn't happen, or whatever it was or is, I get to be the one who stands there. And I feel like I stand there for everybody who went through the things that I have gone through and didn't get to be the one that stands there. And it's very humbling to me, and it's a humongous honor to get to do these very special characters all the time. I mean, it's an immense joy, and to be able to have that joy in your work and in your life, all I can do is remain humble and be incredibly thankful for every single opportunity that's given
Well, we're
to me.
thankful as audience members and as the opera community. We're all thankful what you bring. What you bring to the stage is really
Thank
very
you.
special. Let's
Thank
talk
you.
about the horrible period of COVID. Now, an artist at your level, how far out are you booked, and how many years of contracts were canceled?
So, I would say, and I'll be really honest, 4 years ago, I was booked 4 years in advance. But that has changed in the last several years as budgets change and things like that. So I was only booked 2 years in advance, and I lost an entire year. Thankfully, when we got into December of this year, November, December of this year, thankfully, the Opera House in Zurich said, come, we're going to rehearse, we're going to put this production together, we're going to do it with all the protocols in place that, you know, that the government is requiring, and we're going to try to put it on stage. And if we can't put it on stage, we're going to put it on TV. And we were like, awesome. So we all came. They took great care of us. We were all very safe. We did not have any COVID cases while we were there. And we worked every day, and we were tested. And, you know, we followed all the protocols. We sang in our masks. We did the whole 9 yards. And we were able to put out a beautiful production of Boca Negra in very strange circumstances. The orchestra was in a completely different building. The building was about 2.5 kilometers away.
Amazing.
And the Opera House had run cable, fiber optic cables underneath the city. And there was, if you can find the streaming on Arte TV, there's a whole, the intermission information, the video, is of them actually digging up the city and putting these cables to run from the rehearsal space to the Opera House. It's a train stop. It's a train stop.
Can you see this in America? Are them taking the arts this seriously in America?
No, I can't. And it was amazing. It was amazing because you would not know. You would not know the orchestra was not in the space where we were being filmed. You would have no idea unless you were told. It was incredible. The sound quality was incredible. It was a challenge for us because, you know, we had Maestro Luisi with us, but he was in the other building. And so we had him on a screen. We had him on a huge screen. But there is this much delay, you know? So you have to be on top of what you have to know what he's going to give, and you have to be on top of it. So that was challenging for sure. But we did it. We did a beautiful streaming video DVD, and they paid us. And you know, honestly, yeah, at that point, you know, I commend every single opera house that paid any artist something. Even if it was, I mean, I know there were some houses that said we can give you 10%. Even 10% was more than unemployment, you know. And so I commend anyone, but they gave us several fees and said, please make this DVD, please stay, please pay for your apartments, please get your COVID tests, you know, and take care of yourselves. And we did, and we were able to make this DVD. And honestly, I mean, it was so stressful and heartbreaking because there's no people in front of you. But knowing that there were, you know, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people watching the stream on Arte TV, it just melts your heart.
How does it feel? You're such an emotional person. You're such an emotional person. We just feel that, your humanity. What did it feel like producing this work of art and doing this? You're someone who's done art. You've been an opera singer at the top of the business for a long time. What's it like now? You're doing this kind of totally different experience. How did it feel to take the stage for that?
It's hard, and I have to say it's harder. It's harder than doing it for people, because you have a mic, and the mic is right here, and you're trying to get your voice that way for the theater, but the mic is here, so what do? So that's difficult. You are trying to make sure you hit your light, because if you don't hit the light, the camera's not going to pick you up. You're going to be completely shadowed. Nobody will see your face. And you have to think completely differently about how you portray your character. For a theater, yes, you can gesture in a bigger way. But for the camera, and the cameras were close. I mean, we saw some of the video backstage. We saw like a dress run, and I was like, oh my God, he's right up in his face. It's right up in there. So you really have to think about, what are your eyes doing? Are you engaged? Are you listening? Because the camera's going to pick up if you're not listening. Are you really into this scene, or are you just singing? Like, are you, because sometimes in the opera house, when you're having a bad night, you can just turn off and just sing, and nobody in the audience is really going to be able to see, because the house is so big. And if you need, if you have the flu or whatever, and you need to get through on technique, that's the way you get through. But on the camera, you can't do that. You can't, because it's right here, So it was hard, but I do have to say, it was hard work that was so worth it, because so many people needed it. At that point, there really hadn't been a ton of productions made and then put directly into streaming. There were old productions from different houses that were streamed, but there weren't a ton of, we're making this new, we're making it COVID, and we're putting it out just like this, as we would have done if it was a new production.
And this will live as a document to creativity and a testament to a creative impulse and overcoming these odds and producing art in an incredibly difficult time. So bravo to Zurich.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was, it was very well received. The reviews were amazing. I was like, did we pay people to write these? Like, this is amazing. But everyone appreciated it so much. And that makes it so fulfilling for all of us, because we do it. I do it for you. I do it for those people sitting in the audience. Yes, I love it and I enjoy it, but I want to give a good performance so you have a good experience. Like, when I sit in an audience for an opera, if somebody's struggling, I'm like, oh, poor baby.
I feel their larynx as a conductor. I feel their larynx. I want to take a breath with them,
And you want to help, I want to go up there and like yank it down,
Down, boy.
Yes, down, get down there, But I, in my mind, I'm thinking, I need to do this for you. And it's for you to escape for 3 hours. This is my job. I got to focus for 3 hours. But when that audience comes in, that's their 3 hours to escape from their lives. So I want it to be the most wonderful and memorable experience possible. I mean, what if there's somebody in that particular audience that's like me when I was 20 years old, sitting in that boxing arena going, oh my God, I have to do this, right? What if
life-changing?
Seriously, what if like future Zeffirelli is in that audience and they can fall in love with something that night? You never know when you're a part of that. And it's so it's important that for me every performance is that engaged and that in that organic. So for this camera, it was the same. I just felt like I needed to give everything I could, because there were so many people sitting at home that needed it.
Your love for your craft, your love for your work is so infectious. It makes me want to go and practice and start studying it for this when we get off the air.
I want to practice. Let's go practice. No,
Start
but
learning
it really,
opera.
it was a hard, COVID was a hard time. COVID was hard for everybody.
I ask this for
And
everyone that comes on this show.
yeah,
What innovations and self-discoveries did you make during this COVID period, and how are you going to take that with you into the next chapter?
it's so interesting that you asked that. I was just talking to my husband about this. I I learned so at the very beginning of COVID, my husband and we were having a hard time kind of motivating and figuring out how are we going to do this? Like he was working from home. Thankfully we have two spaces that he can work in one and I can work in one. He was doing therapy at home and I was like not sure how I was going to make money and trying to like pivot into teaching online, which I had no idea was even like a thing. And we were trying to figure out how are we gonna do this and be sane and not sit on the couch all day and watch Netflix and eat chips, right? So we read this article and it was a fascinating article. It was by a man who was a Navy SEAL, and he was describing his life inside of a submarine for a year and how they were can you imagine? No sunlight, and how they were down underwater for months at a time, and how you have to create this routine for your body in order for your body, number one, to remain healthy, but number two, in order for you to energize your metabolism so that you can stay motivated. And this article was so unbelievably helpful. And so every day I had a schedule and I followed that schedule, and that TV did not come on until the schedule was over. And I did not watch lunchtime TV. I did not do it. I made myself have things to do. I'm motivated to do social media, to do videos, to do this, to do that, and keep myself busy so that when we did go back to things, my voice was not completely out of shape. And I'm very thankful that I did that because I would not have been able to sing Boca Negra if I had just for 6 months been like, well, I'm not singing, But this article was really fascinating, and I will forever now take with me this idea of routine and schedule and scheduling office hours for yourself, and just being and focusing on, okay, I wake up, I have my breakfast, I sit down, I do some office work, I do some translation, I do some diction, I do study, whatever. I go to the gym, I come back, I take a shower, I get ready for the day, I have my lunch, I go practice. When practicing is over, then you can have fun.
The 7 habits of highly successful people, like you were the embodiment of that. It's wonderful.
But I think it's so important even for young singers, because as you're coming out of school, nobody teaches you how to self-motivate. Nobody teaches you, okay, now you get to have a 12-hour day where you're awake all by yourself to learn music and go to your coachings and your lessons and your this and your that. And you have to learn that role for that summer program, and there's nobody to tell you what to do.
Fill it wisely.
So you have to figure it out. And I think that article really saved me and helped me to go forward with this really motivated, well, I need to be working attitude. And so from the I need to be working, I pivoted and created a humongous voice studio of incredible singers, master classes all over the place. We did the Fort Worth master classes and audition panels, which were amazing. Like so grateful to Joe Illick and Ryan Lathan for putting all of that stuff together for me at Fort Worth. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. And we motivated so many young singers. And I did classes, I did artist residency, I did seminars, I did, just all of this stuff all over, and you can do it all from the comfort of your little room. How special
that you get to inspire people like yourself who are on the way up, or give them that hand up as they take the next step into their career. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really, it's so fulfilling, and it's what Martina Arroyo did for me, and so I feel like it's very important to pay that forward to the next
I had a meeting
generation.
in her house. I remember, I'll never forget this. I was in her apartment in New York, and she's like, honey, I was rocking before there was rock and roll.
Yeah, it's true. She's
Amazing.
so fun. Adore her.
I'll never forget that as long as I live.
I love it.
So how can people find out more about you, about what you're up to? How can people tell us where to go?
Well, I'm very active, obviously, on social media. You can
certainly
follow
are.
me. Yes, I love my social media. You can follow me on Instagram at Rowley1, Larowley number 1. I have the same handle on Twitter, although I don't update Twitter as much because I find scrolling Twitter to be like, right? I am Jennifer Rowley Soprano on Facebook. And I also have a website, jenniferrowley.com, where I keep everything, and my amazing team of boss ladies, Lenny Studio, keeps everything up to date and looking amazing. They're so great. They just do amazing things. Yeah, but I mean, Instagram is the best way. I'm constantly on Instagram. I love Instagram. I think it's such a great way to connect, audience to diva. I love it. Like, it makes me so thrilled. And to be able to connect with young singers and to connect young singers to projects that I'm doing. This June, I'm teaching for two summer festivals. Fantastic. That are happening in person.
Wonderful.
And the students are all from Instagram. It's amazing. We put it out, they applied, and they're coming, and they write me on Instagram, and they're like, "We're gonna see you in Florida," and I'm like, like, it's so great to be able to connect with people that way. So yeah, Instagram is my, I love my Instagram.
Well, thank you so much. Continued success, every blessing
Thank
as you inspire the people on the way up, as you take the world stage yourself. And I can't wait to be in the audience soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, and thank you for joining us today. Our next broadcast will be on this coming Sunday at 6 p.m., actually 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because Nicholas Tamania from Germany, a countertenor, internationally active countertenor, will be joining us then. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive.